But you talk about teams that are consistently bad and teams that are struggling to win. The Memphis Grizzlies are not one of those. I saw this over the weekend, and I said this to Drew because I wanted to talk about it today, because you get a lot of people coming at you saying, oh, Memphis is so bad. They need to move to Nashville, and Memphis can never figure out how to win. Shout out Sane on his show on Thursday last week. He said that the Memphis Grizzlies, and this is a great point, of the 25 years they've been in Memphis, we've been to the playoffs 15 times. And so what you're seeing here is our average wins over or under the preseason projection for the last 15 years. The last 15 years. And in those 15 years, the Memphis Grizzlies are averaging almost 2 wins above their preseason projection, which puts them 4th best in the last 15 years out of any team in the NBA. You see way down there at the bottom, our brethren to our southwest, the New Orleans Pelicans, who have been cheeks for the last 15 years, a team that's not much better than the LA Lakers. Yes, they've had some runs in the last 15 years, but overall, they're finishing worse in how they're projecting. Drew, what this tells me is that for a small market, us being the smallest market, really before you get to Milwaukee there, like one of the smallest, if not the smallest market on this entire list, but like we're finding ways to win and stay above the curve, even though we can't land players. And like you said a few minutes ago, we're not a destination for free agents. Tell me how we're still exceeding expectations year after year.
Well, we've developed players very well, and we make smart moves. There's not been, we make the David Roddy and the Zaire Williams jokes a lot, but more times than not, they hit. And it's more important for Memphis than almost any team in the league that you hit at the draft. And you hit with John Morant. Obviously, that was the easiest pick you ever made. Then you hit with Jaren Jackson Jr., and you've hit with virtually anybody not named David Roddy and Zaire Williams in the draft. And so that's the best way to build a team, especially and have a team with a high floor. And also, it doesn't hurt either that Vegas every year feels like insults Memphis. Every year, people in Memphis say, this is way too low. And so we've just proved them right every time.
Yeah, I mean, that's it.
And also, the Lakers every year were like, there's no way that they're this good.
Yeah,
and that's
it. Yeah. But what you see in this, like, you're right. Like, I don't admit, like, Chris Wallace, like, did fine. Like, he hit on a few, but, like, was such a knucklehead running this team. And I'm not going to sit here and say that Zach Kline has been perfect, because he hasn't been. We could talk about David Roddy. We could talk about Zaire Williams and missing on those for sure. But what you can't say is that he has a better than average swing and hit versus a swing and miss rate in the NBA draft. Now, we can talk about free agents. We can talk about trades. Again, I think a lot of the trade shade, I might trademark that, the trade shade that he gets on Twitter is because people get in their feels about their own trade proposals that they make on Fanspo or Sports Track or ESPN Trade Machine, wherever you go. And so people get in their feels about that, and they think that because they can make it work, that Klyman should be able to make it work. And that's just not the case. Yeah. Could he do a better job in trades and free agency? Absolutely. I'm not giving him a pass with that. But trading in the NBA is such a complex math problem. Kevin Love is exactly right. Like, it's a math problem, right? You have to make ingoing and outgoing salaries and stay under this cap and this trade exception. And if you're going to move this much salary, you have to attach this many picks to it. And it takes way more brain power. Like, I used all my brain power just explaining that right there. Like, I could never be an NBA GM. Shocker. But like, what it tells me is that we are building the best way possible for a small market. And yeah, in a league that's championship or bust, it's a bummer that we haven't won a championship yet. But we're competitive year in and year out. And that's all you can truly hope for in the NBA these days. But there's so much parity now with the CBA, and things are changing. The dynasties are kind of going away. There's a lot of parity now. As a small market team, being competitive year in and year out gets taken for granted because we haven't hung a banner yet. And don't get me wrong, I hate losing. I won a championship parade in Memphis because I will be acting a fool on Beale Street when it happens, and I truly think it will. But like, embrace the culture that is winning here in Memphis, because it's working, and we're one of the best teams in the last 15 years at exceeding expectations.
There's no doubt about that. Not one bit. And there's just so much value to not sucking. For a small market team, you see teams like, the Oakland Athletics. I don't know if you necessarily call Oakland small market, although it's pretty small.
Yeah.
But you see what the apathy that happens when you have such a small market team that just insists on sucking for so long and rebuilding and not spending money. And I know baseball salary cap's totally different. Like it's not an apples to apples comparison, but just look at what happens to a fan base when you suck that bad for so long. And the Grizzlies, given all of the flaws in the market size and everything, and whether or not they are a destination for free agents and buyout candidates and all that kind of stuff. Despite all that, they figured out a way to put competitive basketball on the court every single year, with the exception, since I've been a fan, with the exception of 2 years. One of those years was the year that you traded Mark Gasol and Zach Randolph. And then the other year, you started 28 different players. You played 28 different players in the season. You just got ravaged for injury. So you're doing it the right way. Zach Kleiman and the front office, of course, culture is culture. Zach Kleiman couldn't turn this into a tanking thing anyways. He wouldn't survive. But by consistently hitting on your draft picks and putting forth a team that tries hard and competes every single night, like that's how you increase your, that's how you overshoot your floor, basically.